Hey everyone, welcome back to Studio 70. And
Welcome,
if you're
welcome.
new, we'd like to introduce ourselves first.
I'm Shavak.
And I'm Ezu, and today we're going to talk about Chris Watts and Survey 319. But before we get into all that stuff, Shirak, what do you want to
Yes, we
say?
just want to make sure this is for educational, entertainment purposes only. Always do your own research and always be kind to everyone, friends, families, even enemies.
And in the comments section, please be kind. We like constructive criticism. Let's just keep it upbeat. We are positive. We're going to stay positive.
Exactly.
And on that note, this is I don't want to say a part two Shrock to this, but a little bit history about our show. We started in January 2nd of 2024. So we're obviously brand new. We're only 4 months into it. And we were starting off with some music stuff and we started mixing it. We did an episode that mixed it with true crime, which was about Survey 319 and Chris Watts. And make a long story short, our community reacted. They want to see us do more true crime. So we definitely are into that full time doing all that. But it was about this Chris Watts Survey 319. And he only had 38 minutes in the morning to do what he needed to do that morning. And there's a lot of information on there. Some of it I got from the court documents. Some of it I got online, which I thought was good sources. But as I matured in an area, I realized I just need to go to all court documentation and not really trust what's on the internet.
So fake
obviously.
news does exist.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty accurate, but not. I like to try to be as accurate as possible,
Yeah.
So I wanted to do a follow-up to that because I have more insights and more information on the topic that I think you guys are going to find really interesting. At the end, I want you to think, okay, did he really get everything done that morning in that short time frame? Did he dig the hole ahead of time, or did he have help? I want you guys to decide, but there's going to be more information for you guys to really kind of sink your teeth into. So without further ado, bear with me. I'm just trying to get to the slide. Okay, so first, we're going to discuss, if you're new here, we have on our show a crime board that we put together for every case. It's information we put up there, talking points, things about the case that we know are factual or maybe well understood, maybe questions that we're going to answer or try to answer later on. And a lot of times those questions we throw out as a question to you guys, the community board, and based on the results, we add it here and we say, this is what the community feels happened. And we just try to build out the story or build out
a lot of facts here.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are factual here. So really good information. It's just to let you know this is what our crime board looks like for this case, the Watts case. I'm going quickly right through it because I'm so excited. I just want to get to the good stuff here. So let's go. All right. Now this looks really kind of small. Don't worry about it. You don't need to read it. The key parts here on top. 5:46 a.m., Chris Watts departs from his house. 6:54, he arrives at Survey 319. 8:24, well, between 8 and 8:24. I'm assuming 8:24, but somewhere in that time period, his coworkers Melissa and Chad arrive at the same time as Survey 319, and then Troy McCoy arrives later at 8:51. What's in the red there, everything is minute by minute, so it's hard to see, but it goes from 5:46 all the way to 9 a.m., and all those little spots are just 1 minute intervals. And in the red is what we know Chris was doing. That he's either texting or calling or he's driving, something we kind of know for sure he's doing something.
Yeah.
Some activity. The gray area over to the right, you're going to find is stuff that we feel he was most likely not doing something that was disposing of his family. He was probably doing other things, but we don't feel it was related to, he might have been cleaning up or doing stuff, but he wasn't actually doing the physical actions of disposing of his family. I think that came in the middle section here where you see a lot of white. And we're going to talk about that. So we're going to break this up in 3 sections. The first section is his point A to point B from his house to Survey 319. Then we're going to talk about the section where he all of a sudden stages a text message to Shanann, and up until basically Troy McCoy arrives, the third person, the third coworker. And then once we talk about those 2 sections, we're going to focus on the real deal here, the middle part where Chris had the only time he had doing everything. I think that time period is roughly 44 minutes. If you take the few minutes to what he did in the middle, which we'll explain, it's somewhere between 38 and 41 minutes. The variations come into play. If you look at the court documentation, there's even some discrepancies on time. So everything is within a certain couple minutes, what do they say, that error, tolerance, it's pretty close.
Yes.
So let's get going more. Shrek, any questions before you jump in?
Yes, I just had a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
good.
so the Chris Watts departs from his house. I think that's irrelevant. We wanted just to know exactly when he arrived at work, which was 6:54, right?
Well, I think that's a really good question because people might say that. I think it's good because we want to know, did he stop anywhere? Or
Does it
based.
matter if he did?
Yeah, yeah, it
Like
could
what?
be. It
Okay.
could tell the story. Maybe he had to take care of somebody in the car.
Well, we
Uh,
already know where the bodies are,
maybe.
so it's like we know
Well,
it's
for people who doesn't know the story, maybe he got rid of something. Maybe the time frame seems not consistent with the normal drive.
So if that was the case, we would have added it, but since it wasn't the case,
Oh,
we
well,
didn't.
you spoil.
But that's fine.
You're
That's just
you're
my
awesome, but you're spoiling everything. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
Correct.
know,
Yes.
you know
You're
what I'm
getting.
saying. But that's
You know
fine.
me. I would like to throw in some surprises, but unfortunately, this one and then that's not the case. But you're right. There would be other things. You know me, but this one is pretty straightforward. I think is your point.
But it's
Yeah,
a good. I like the way that
it's a good. I like that. I love that. Keep those questions coming because. Unfortunately, that's why we're doing going to be starting doing live streams every week. We want to interact with our peoples, and it's hard because you're kind of like acting as a voice for them as well. So I'm glad you're asking these questions. So let's talk about the time frame you just mentioned. This is perfect segue, right? So anything you see here that is text, the back is white and the black text that I copied and pasted from the court documentations or investigation records and things like. It's all real deal. It's not something off the internet. So it's all from the real documents. So Watts left his home with the bodies of his family piled in the backseat of his truck. So think about that. That's just
it's just mind blowing right
blind
there.
blowing. And he was having a little
Three
conversation.
bodies. Ooh.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
no, four.
Well, you're right. Thank you, because Shanann was pregnant. Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's a very good point. In fact, that should have been corrected. Um, but yeah, so basically on that Monday, he's having a little interaction with Cody Roberts, one of his workers. Hey, he's saying I'm at Survey 319, but he really wasn't. He really wasn't there yet. But he's having a little bit back and forth with him between 6:30 and 6:35. But we know he gets there at 6:50. I call it 6:54. Now on this next sheet, it just puts that based on the document by Husky, it appears that Chris started his work truck at 5:18 and remained as residence for 27 minutes. It appeared Chris left the residence at 5:45. See how it's off by a minute? That's what I'm saying. Everything is kind of like it says 5:45, but if you look at the data below, it says 5:46. Anyhow, that's a mute point. I'm just mentioning that. He drove 47 miles to the oil well site, Survey 319. On the bottom here in yellow, there's 2 points that they just mentioned. The first one, I know you guys can't really see it, so I'm going to read for you, is the 518 part, 518 to 5. Let's see. What's it say? 32. He was basically running his truck for 27 minutes. And the second line is basically when he left at 5:46 and got to Survey 319 at 5:53:57 seconds. That's why I put 6:54 because come on, it's 3 seconds. They put 6:53, but really, I know we're splitting hairs here, but I put 6:54 because it's 3 seconds off. I mean, he didn't really do anything in 3 seconds, probably just put in park. So 6:54, he arrives there, and this is just the data. And this becomes very important because I just want to point out his truck doesn't move from there, meaning it doesn't show that he moved a mile, half a mile, or he started his truck back up. If you notice at 6:30, he leaves and then goes someplace 6:39. So his truck stays in one place. So let's talk about that. And this is where I get into where I say in the beginning of the show, the title, more information, more insights. Here's where it gets added from the first episode. It's very hard to read here. Sorry about this, guys. But to make a long story short, what I'm going to show you is right where the circle is, this wellhead. Troy McCoy, who shows up later, he notices that Chris is parked in a weird spot. And I think even Melissa was new to going to Survey 319, so she didn't really know. But I think also Chad was probably also thinking that was a weird spot. Usually they would park up to the left to see all those vehicles.
Right, from everyone.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're dealing with a leak near the tanks. What are you doing parking your truck way the heck over there? And he didn't move it, so he just left it there. You see in the red circle somewhere in the areas where his truck was parked. Now, it's hard to see, but you see those little green dots below? The top middle one is where the grave site was for Shanann, and the other ones are like evidence, like plastic bags, bed sheets, the rake handles, and things like that. So he's parked over there, but most time people would park near the tanks. And just another point to note, from the wellhead to the tank is roughly 100 feet. And we'll get into that, why that's important. So knowing his truck didn't move, knowing where he parked and all that is new information. Well, new information to what our discussion is. And it becomes very important to when we talk about later in terms of time frame. So keep all this in mind now, and I'll have a reminder slide later. So let's focus on now. We talked about the first part of this, him going from his house to Survey 319.
Yeah.
Now the next one is, let's talk about 740 onwards. So this is roughly things he was doing. We know he was doing that led up until his coworkers showed up. Okay. So 740, he texts Shanann,
Shannann's
like
phone,
a
yeah.
stage message. If you took the kids somewhere, please let me know where they're at, And then he made a 2.5 minute phone call to Troy. And then he did a quick text message, and he took a picture of something and sent it. And then he had a call with Luke at 7:43 for almost 2 minutes. So this is where that whole, if you see where the yellow arrow is, there's a block of red there. That's where some of the stuff is happening between that section there. So we know at 7:40 on, he's starting to become very active again, because you could see before that, the block we didn't talk about, there's a lot of white space. I mean, there's space that we don't know what he's doing. Now he's starting picking up with activity again, like what we consider normal or the activity we can track. And then somewhere between 7:43 up into 7:53, he's having some text messages. And then at 7:47, he also calls, Chad calls Chris and has a 2-minute conversation. And I'm probably going to repeat this again, but basically that is going to be a key conversation, because from what I know from the court documentation, Chad and Melissa left Anadarko's office and went to this thing called the Batcave. I believe it's where they have parts or different things there. And they stopped there real quickly before they head to Survey 319. And they think they left for the Batcave at 7:45 or between 7:45 and 8 a.m. Okay, somewhere that time frame. But I'm sure when he was talking with Chris, he had to know that they were pretty close, that they were on their way. And at 8 a.m., I guess to Cody Roberts, I guess he said, "Hey, do you need help? You need Gatorade or something like that?" And he said, "No, I got things handled, thanks." And in this area where there's a lot of gray area here, this is somewhere in here is where Melissa and Chad arrives. Chad thought they arrived around 8. And I think I'll talk about this in a second, but Melissa thought they arrived later. It's somewhere in that vicinity. But when Chad does arrive, he says that Chris appears absolutely normal. He seems quiet and pleasant. He's goofing around. Yes, he has his pants tucked into his boots, which I guess he was afraid of snakes or something. He usually have his pants over his boots, but he just noticed it was in his boots. And, he just seemed to be his usual cheerful self. He did notice that he said it was hot, but he didn't seem to be sweaty. And again, he thought it was like, wow, it's kind of, he's saying it's hot. It's only around 8 a.m., which I guess wasn't. I think it was still like in the 70s or 80s. I have to double check that.
Yeah, the weather.
But
August.
he doesn't recall Watts any work on the site at the time, they arrived. So I guess that I didn't think about this until now, Shruck, but maybe Chad was thinking, geez, Chris has been here for a while. He hasn't done really that much work.
Exactly.
Maybe, but then maybe I thought maybe he was waiting for them or something. I don't know.
And like you said, with the pants, he was tucking the boots. Who knows if he could have just quick, like you said, switch clothes.
Yeah, he
So
could have
that's why
just
he wasn't sweaty.
and that's what he could have been doing in this time frame. Not so much
Yeah.
disposing of his family. He was kind of done with that, but he was kind of just freshening up and just trying to look
Right.
normal and get himself
Yeah,
straight
you said
in
the
the head.
pants is tucking the boots. So
Now for Melissa, she said that they got there approximately 8:25, and in the handwriting part is a later when she followed up with investigator, she said maybe around 8:24. She tried to find more documentation on it, but I guess they couldn't. She said refer to the GPS data if you want to know the real strict actual time. I don't think I've found that. I don't know if they're really real concerned about the actual time.
Mhm.
But anywho, she felt that, again, he appeared to be normal. Chris did have a shovel in his hand. I guess he was digging a small hole near the oil tank. She said it was maybe like a foot wide and 6 to 8 inches deep. So what's that? Maybe one or two, maybe three at the most shovels. So he could have saw them coming, driving up down the road or down there and said, okay, she said, might as well start working here. Who knows? Or maybe started shoveling a little bit before they got there.
Yeah.
In any event, he appeared to be normal, and she doesn't believe he was sweaty at all either, and appeared to be very sociable. Okay, and that last section is just to point out that 8:25, he stages a 3-second phone call to Shanann's phone and was doing some internet searches, and then Troy showed up at 8:51 a.m. Okay, so that just takes care of that section. Now, the key talking point to this whole area that I have highlighted in blue here, this whole time frame, is that these are the reasons why I think most likely he was done disposing of his family by 7:40. First off, he didn't do any staging before then, but he finally just sends a text message to Shanann at 7:40. So this is just a speculation, of course, but he probably was done with everything he needed to do and now had to enter like his next stage of the plan. I'm thinking he probably felt, not, I don't want to say relieved, that's probably the wrong word, but he probably felt, okay, that's taken care of. Now I can do this next piece. It would seem kind of weird that he's in the middle of like literally disposing her body and he takes a second to text. He's probably going to do that after he's done with all his work. Again, speculation, but just trying to think of human behavior. And then don't think Chris would have wasted time making the phone calls he needed to until he was done, because it would have been distracting. What happens if his coworkers asked him, hey, while you're there, can you do this, while I'm on the phone with you? That would have threw off all his plans, right? Why take the chance? He would probably do that after he was done with everything. Again, all speculation, just trying to think logically, okay? And then when Chad was talking to him at 7:47 for that minute phone call, he knew they were close by. They knew they were going to be there any minute.
Because they told him that they was
Yeah.
away.
And I don't even know if they even said they were going to be at the Batcave. I don't know. Who knows? But the bottom line is that I don't think he would want to get caught or run the risk of doing stuff. I think he'd want to be done by then. Chris did start digging near the well leak area, so near the tanks. So he was doing a little bit before they came, not much. What's that? Maybe a minute or two. And he didn't appear sweaty. So again, it wasn't like he was trying to hurry up, get stuff done, because that would have showed on his body.
Well, allegedly.
Allegedly, like you said, Chirac, right?
Yeah, because basically I could work out and I won't even give a sweat, but other people sometimes.
Some people don't really
some people sweat. Some people sweat more than others, and we know that.
I'm going to use this word. He could have looked discombobulated. Ha ha, look at that word. But you're right. I mean, he could have looked disheveled, though. I mean, if he was quickly trying to fill the hole or whatever, even if he didn't sweat, he could have not had time to put himself together. Yeah. Again, this is all me just thinking logically. It just seemed like such a switch that all of a sudden he became so communicative and he started doing all this stuff. It just seemed like his plan was set. And there really isn't much minutes in between to do anything else, to be honest with you. So I think we can kind of say that from 7:40 on, he's pretty much occupied. Now let's focus on the real area, that 44 minutes. If you take away the few minutes, maybe 38 minutes, 39 minutes to do everything. At 7:10, he just says a quick text message. So he's probably keeping up on communication that's coming in. I didn't count for those minutes, but I'm sure he's at period times looking at his phone because he needs to, hold up appearances. But he just does a quick okay copy, which, some people have a quick, what do they call that? Pre-canned message responses. So that literally could took 1 second to do.
Like automated.
Yeah, exactly. Automated responses. Some people save them and they could just do quick responses. Excuse me. Then he took a photograph of his laptop screen, presumably sitting in his truck at 7:18. So he did take a minute or two or something to do something there. Yeah, that's why you see those two little red marks there. So those are a couple of minutes. And I was conservative. I only put a minute. So it could be more. It could be, about this a little less. But basically, that's why I have those little. He was interrupted at least 2 times in what he was doing, or paused at least twice. That's all I'm trying to say there. Now, as far as information where Shanann and the girls were placed, it's good to note that Shanann, the buttock was approximately, because she was, I think, buried face down. So the top of her body was at least 8 inches. And it also says 9 inches in the document, but let's just assume 8. There was 8 inches from the top of the burial site, meaning you had to dig 8 inches down to get to where her body was. Okay, so 8 inches depth, and it was approximately the hole itself was about 27 inches in
7
depth
inches in depth.
total. And then when Chris was interviewed, he said that it was buried about 2 feet down in the ground, and Chris estimated it took him 20 to 30 minutes to dig Shanann's grave. I mentioned that in the first episode too. This becomes very important. We'll talk about that in a second. And then the other part is some people don't realize this. Some of you do if you're really close to the case. Is Bella and Celeste were actually put into two separate tanks.
Yes.
Bella in the west and Celeste in the east holding tank. Okay, so let's look at those pictures again. Chris is by the wellhead, about 100 feet from the tanks. So keep that in mind when we're talking about time frames.
Because he had to walk to
He had to walk to the east tank and then to the west tank. Okay, so I'm sure he's not keeping both. I doubt it.
He could
I
have
one time both. I doubt it. I mean, you're talking person's not moving and helping. It's and then on the right you could see the hole. So it gives you an idea of the size. And don't forget, I'm getting ahead of myself. So I want to get into all the specifics. So get into the nitty gritty of each minute. But so that gives you an idea of placement for the tanks and what the hole looked like. Okay. So 44 minutes in duration. I'm not saying he had 44 minutes. I'm just saying it's the duration that we're trying to count for. Okay. He had less minutes than that to do what he needed to do. He had to get out of his truck and get the tools. Let's just assume he's doing the digging first. So, which we don't know what he did first, right? But let's just say he had to go out and get tools, right? He's not going over there. He's not digging with his hands. So he had to get stuff out of his truck. He had to find a spot for the hole. And this is assuming he's doing everything that morning. He had to dig the hole. He had to move Shanann to the grave, to the hole. He had to fill the hole, right? Because it's going to take time to fill everything up. Even if you're going really quickly, you got you'd be surprised. Filling a hole back up takes some time. And then take Bella to the west tank, go back and take Celeste to the east
As
tank.
if he didn't take both at the same time.
I don't think he did. I mean,
Could have grabbed
how and even if he did, you'd have to leave one. I don't know. We don't know. But this is something to talk about because when we get to the minute stuff, he had a text back Cody because that was one of the little spots in there where we knew he sent back a text message, okay, copy, and taken a photo of his laptop. So all that stuff had to happen within the screen window of the 44 minutes. Again, I say 44 minutes duration. I'm not saying he actually had, this is all the stuff. I kind of combined everything into one piece here. So let's see what that would let's break that down and see what that looked like if you take that 44 minutes and break everything down, Shrock. Let's see. And see what you think. I'm really curious to see what you think and what everybody else thinks. So just to let you know, I found this online and I found it in many sites, not just one. That an average person, if they walk 3 miles an hour, it takes about 30 seconds to walk 100 feet. Okay, just keep that in mind. Okay. 44 minute. This is a 44 minute time estimate scenario. Given this was done quickly, executed perfectly, and planned well, right? So when he got there, he had to know like what he was going to do. He had to. He had no time to think. He just needed to execute, right? So let's say he gets out of his truck and gets his tool. Let's round up or round about. Minute. Find a spot for the hole. A minute. Dig the hole. 20 minutes. I went on the low side purposely. He said 20 to 30 minutes. Let's assume 20. Let's assume the low side. Go back to the truck and move Shanann to the grave. Now, I'm sure that took more than 2 minutes because you're not dealing with somebody who's aiding, right? He has to somehow, it's going to be a little difficult. I'm not going to go into details. I don't want to get to morbid stuff. But let's just say 2 minutes. And I know this seems really quick, and this is my point. Then he has to fill the hole. So if he took 20 minutes to 30 minutes to dig the hole, I just assume, okay, let's take the other 10 minutes to fill the hole. Now, could it fill the hole take 5 minutes? Maybe. But filling the hole could take a while. So what I did is I took the shorter assumptions to say 30 minutes to dig the hole and fill the hole.
He's just filling one hole, correct? Just to be
just where Shanann's in there. And there was
exactly.
8 inches above. So,
just want to be clear that this is one hole he's digging.
Yeah, one hole. And then he had text back Cody 1 minute. and he took a photo of the laptop, which is 1 minute. Then he had to go back to the truck, take Bella to the west tank, and go back to the truck and take Celeste to the east tank, and that's maybe about 4 minutes. So we know it's about almost 2 minutes round trip. That means, and don't forget too, that's just walking the 100 feet. He still has to go, I think, up the stairs, right? And I don't want, again, don't want to get morbid, but I'm sure there was a struggle trying to get them in the tank, okay, and to open and close. There's all these seconds. I don't want to go too crazy, but you could see these estimates are pretty. They're not padded. If anything, they're low, in what I think. Um, but anyhow, so here's the thing. So that's how it would have to play out if the 44-minute estimate stands. If somebody said, well, could you have done everything in 44 minutes? This is what would have to happen. Now, somebody could say, well, Ed, maybe digging the hole only took 10 minutes and filling the hole took 5 and he had 15. Okay. Maybe he was going really quick. Maybe he was booking it. Maybe his 23 minutes was off. I don't know. I want to hear what you guys have to say. So this is the community question. And then we get to there. I want to have a discussion with you, Shrug. I want to hear what you say. But the thing is, was Chris able to do everything that morning? Do you think he had an hour to drive? He knew when he got there exactly what he was going to do. He was going to dig the hole, fill the hole. He knew exactly what he was going to do. He had to execute it perfectly, and he just got it done. He booked it, and then he just, during the end time, he was just able to get extra clothes, dry himself off, and get his stuff together during the phone calls and the stage text messages and stuff. Or did Chris dug the hole in advance? Meaning, do you think he went out there, or of course, maybe somebody else, but did Chris go out there and dig it in advance? So therefore, when he got there, the only thing he had to do was place the body and just fill the hole. That would save a lot of time, right?
Yes.
That would fit the scenario. Or did Chris have help from someone that morning, or perhaps earlier? Could it be a possibility that somebody went there with him? Would be, very what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think. If somebody did follow him there, that they could have got caught, or it could have been somebody who helped him ahead of time. Who knows? Again, these are just theories. These are speculation. I just want to say, based on what we presented with the data and the new information as far as where his truck was and what he had to do. We know he didn't move the truck, so he had to walk around and get things done. That all takes time. So, but it seemed pretty purposeful where he was looking to park.
What was the question? He didn't move the truck. How do we know he didn't move the truck?
Oh, based on the vehicle data they showed, remember in yellow, it showed that he didn't. The truck didn't move.
No, reverse, just to go back a little bit near the tanks.
I think it would have registered on there, because even when he started up the car, remember at his home when it was just running for 27 minutes. It showed there his car was running. It would have showed something. As far as I know, if that's the complete data, if they withheld some rows or some information, then that we don't know about. But as far as the information that's presented to us in the court document, his truck just stayed there.
And what is the diameter of the service 319 area? Like did we go over it? Yeah, just to see.
Yeah, well, the map. I have the map there. Yeah. If you want to go back to it.
But just the size of the, like the area.
Here, let's
itself.
Go back here. Oh, let's see if I can. Oh, there's probably not a graceful way to do it. Hold on. Let's see if I can.
No, it's just, to answer the questions. You want to go by the data that we have.
Let's go here. So, this is from the tank, from the east tank to the wellhead is 100 feet at least. And then from there out to the grave is about, it looks like another 60 feet roughly. And then 30 feet where they found a plastic bag, 30-something feet for the rake handle. It's hard to read.
Plastic bag.
29 feet out with plastic bag and bed sheet. So, but here's the interesting thing that you just mentioned inadvertently, which I want to talk about really quickly, is what's interesting is he could have parked out near the tank area, where it would be less suspicious. Mm-hmm. And did the grave hole, dig the hole somewhere off of there 100 feet or something, meaning like, why was it over here near the wellhead? Maybe I'm thinking there's less activities. People were not really walking around there, so maybe it's less obvious as opposed to if he did it 100 feet from the tank, maybe it'd be more suspicious.
Well, it's isolated, right? He's in an isolated area,
No,
so
no, no. What I'm saying is that you see where this white truck is?
mm.
Like, why don't you park there where it's normal and just dig the hole somewhere like 100 feet from there?
So this is Chris' job, right? This is
Yeah.
what he does for a living. He definitely has this down packed, this area. This is his job. How long has he been working at this company? I
Wow.
know we don't know those questions, but all of that determines like why would he have the place where he put the hole.
Yeah, it's got to be because it's less, to your point, Shrock, him knowing the area and knowing all the areas.
He knows
He
the
probably
area. This is
figures
his
if
job.
somebody climbs up here, I'm getting this is all guessing. I don't do the work, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody's walking up the tank and you got more of an aerial view, that might look more suspicious, the freshly dug grave, where if it's done here down by the wellhead, you don't have the height and you really can't see from the angle. It's more remote. To your point, it's more a more remote area. So it's less to deal with. I'm just curious to say why of all the areas,
Yeah,
this had to
I
be
think he
thought
definitely know.
out. You
Of
know what I'm
course, yeah.
saying?
That's just like making that analogy of a bank robber, right? If somebody works as in a clerk and she knows where the
Mm-hmm.
money, which money
Yeah.
to take, don't take that one. Why did she take the one all the way in the back? Because she knows
Exactly,
this is the
right?
job. So they definitely have the knowledge.
Oh yeah, I agree. That's an excellent point. I love your
That's with
points
the
because it
knowledge.
makes a lot of sense. So I want to ask you, Shiraka, what do you think about what do you think happened? Do you think he was able these time frames are off by a little bit and he was able to really get everything done because he just booked it, or do you think he did something in advance, or what do you think?
So what he actually said, it was what was his testimony? Then he said he admitted, right? So did he say that he did it in advance? Or
As
did
far as I know, he didn't say that. As far as I know, he
what
just, said he did everything that morning. I don't of course, I haven't really been keeping up on all the stuff afterwards because there's so many people trying to get to him and say more information, and there's so many lies and deception going on for his own thing. I'm thinking early on now, let's think the time he was arrested. He probably didn't want to lead on to that was what's the word I'm looking for?
he probably would have been you saying that he could have been wanted to be guilty of, I mean, like, because he had activities texting Shanann and saying, oh, if you taking a girl some places, so he was just trying to, like you said, took a photo of his laptop.
He probably didn't want to. I'm guessing. This is a guess. Again, speculation. Do your own research. He might have at the time he got caught didn't want to make it perceived as being
Yeah,
premeditated because
premeditated,
remember in the
yeah.
interview she's like I just freaked out. Well,
Hmm.
first she said Shanann killed the girls, which is ridiculous,
Yeah.
and then he just broke down later. But he probably didn't want to seem like it's premeditated, right?
Hmm.
Especially when he got in the trial because it was premeditated. But so he probably wouldn't admit it, even if he did dig the hole ahead of time. He probably didn't want to say anything
Right.
because it's going to seem worse for his case. Again, this is all
Yeah,
speculation in the
this is
part.
speculation. Of course, if someone was doing this, of course, they would probably plan, right? Everyone plans, like you planned something, you would plan to dig the hole or have the area where the hole is at. So
Yeah.
let's just say when people do work, like just even in this neighborhood, they usually go around a day before and they use a spray can and they spray the area where they're going to do the work. They need to have that planned out, mapped out. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
something that they need to do. So most likely he probably dug or had everything set prior to.
It just I know he had like an hour to drive, but I'm also sure there's a lot of things going through his head. I gotta think it was premeditated because I mean to be that lucky. When I say lucky, I don't mean, and it's a bad word, I know, because there's not luck
Mm,
about this. But for him to execute everything, let's say he did everything that morning, he would have to do everything perfect, and we know he would have to know exactly what to do. He was doing.
it
Um,
was planned,
I think
definitely.
I think if the hole was dug ahead of time, it would be less stressful. He could just,
Dump it.
he knew where to park because he knew where the hole was,
Mhm.
and then he could just move the body there, fill in the hole. Maybe that takes 10 to 20 minutes. Remember, time is ticking. He's probably stressed because he doesn't know when people are really going to show up. He's probably in a hurry to get everything
And
done.
just to use this as an analogy of our other case with the Kent, they found the hole was a hole
Yeah,
dug
that's
down.
true. Woo! Yeah,
So
yeah.
you wanna
So
just
we're mentioning,
so
guys who don't know, we're mentioning the Jennifer Douglas case where
Yeah.
they found a hole dug at that
The
rifle
rifle
club
club.
place,
Yeah.
and they caught it
Yeah.
ahead time with lime and grill grates and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
suddenly, when they went
So.
back there, it was all filled back up again.
Hmm.
In preparation. Um, yeah, I mean, right now I'm leaning towards. Could he have had help with this too? Could somebody have had go out and help him with? Yeah, of course, but
Hmm.
I still have a hard time that he did everything that morning, because I was trying to show in this demonstration, is part two, based on where his truck was and where the girls landed
Yes.
and the time it took to the hole. And, he was already setting up all those questions and talking to people towards the end. That really wasn't time for him to keep doing work on his family because, I know I already talked about that. So, unless those time estimates are all, unless he really dug the hole very quickly, maybe he dug the hole in 5 minutes, maybe the whole thing only took 15 minutes and he had time. I don't know. But I'm anxious to hear what everybody else has to say.
Exactly. What do you have to say? So I think he just dug it in advance prior to.
Yeah. So let's see. So, guys, I'm going to send this question out when this episode airs. And then we're also going to talk about this in the following, once it airs, that following Tuesday when we have live stream, we're going to talk about this
That
more
would be
there.
nice.
I want to hear what you guys have to say live as we chat with you. So, with that, Hinshrock, thank you so much for your insights. That's why I love your input. It's awesome. You're kind of, whether you know it or not, you're kind of voice of the people who can't be here at this time. So, it's always fun. So, anything else, Truck, before we
Yes,
end?
just to give a little people a background, like you always said that some people that we are new to this might be their first episode. So all of the stuff they're going through, they probably like what they talking about, but we want to know what happened.
Yeah.
Shanann was murdered by her husband, right? And he buried her at Service 319, and plus she was pregnant with the kids. Just to give a little background
Yeah,
of
and
her
I'll
history.
put a link to that original episode that we
Yeah, that would
did.
be great, so they
And
can
there's other
grab it.
connections, other podcasts they can listen to, other shows that they can listen to, get up to speed. And also, too, if you've made it this far, made it all the way through, please comment, like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate
That'd be
that. It means a
awesome.
lot. We started memberships, so if you want to support us, we appreciate that as well.
Yes.
And with that, we will see you in the next one.
Studio 70.